Where are you from, sis?
Well, I claim Tennessee.
Yeah, that's a good one.
But I also represent Southern Jersey.
Holy moly, all right.
On the name.
Good morning. I'd like to call this hearing to order. As I'm sure you all know, I used to teach economics for a number of years, and on that note, I'd like to welcome one of our college students out here. Kira came, and she's got relatives on the panel. Good thing, so thanks for being with us today. And I think this subcommittee has done an excellent job this Congress of having both sides of the aisle coming together to examine and promote policies that promote economic growth and small business. At the beginning of this Congress, this subcommittee held a hearing examining the state of small business economy. The economy had just come off 1.6% growth rate in 16. There are a lot of economists beginning to ask the question, have we reached a new normal? Can we rise above the 2% GDP growth that seems to characterize Europe? However, 2018 has marked a stark difference to those years of slow growth. In the second quarter of 2018, economic growth hit 4.2%. According to the Council of Economic Advisors, GDP is on track to hit its highest mark since 2005, and the Atlanta Fed has us growing at, I think, 4.6% next quarter. So this committee obviously wants to keep that rolling. This growth has also allowed companies to make long-term investments. According to UBS, capital spending, the primary variable that drives economic growth, rose 21% in the first quarter and 24% in the second quarter this year, which were both the highest increases seen since 2011. Increased capital spending means that businesses are using more resources to make needed renovations, research the next great idea, and maximize economic growth. In economics, we also know that capital investment in the hands of workers increases productivity, and in macroeconomics, productivity is equated with wage growth, and that's in August, we had 3% wage growth. So the capital investment is making people's lives better across the board. This recent expansion has not just benefited a select few, but rather helped Americans and small businesses across a variety of economic and demographic backgrounds. Unemployment rates across every demographic are at or near historic lows, decade lows. Wage growth since the beginning of 2017 for non-white Americans has outpaced the national average. Furthermore, minority-owned small businesses are growing faster than the national average, and their impact will continue to grow even greater in the years to come. This morning, we have an excellent panel. I met with all of them. We discussed sports for a while to discuss how the recent surge in economic growth and the policies enacted this Congress have impacted minority-owned small businesses. By hearing their stories, we hope to further understand how Congress can continue to promote pro-growth policies to help small businesses of all industries and backgrounds. And I would now like to yield to the ranking member, my friend, for his opening statement. Mr. Evans.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning. Minority entrepreneurs play a significant role in the U.S. economy. They own almost 8 million firms, generating nearly $1.4 trillion in revenue, and employed over 7 million workers. I'm glad we are here taking time today to talk about minority small businesses owners and how their entrepreneurial successes are critical to the prosperity of the United States. Despite these impressive numbers, minority-owned businesses still face many barriers, starting and growing their businesses. The policy of the Trump administration have not helped minority entrepreneurs. Since the tax reform bill passed last December, it has become clear that the majority of the benefits from the law firm disappointed to larger corporations and the very wealthy. Some small firms are seeing at best marginal benefits. Many others are yet to see meaningful advantages. Additionally, the tax plan jeopardized health coverage for 13 million Americans. The future deficit pressures could impair Social Security, Medicaid, and Medicare. Ultimately, the gutting the ACA and vital Social Security net programs impose indirect costs on responsible entrepreneurs who want to do the right thing by their employees. Additionally, the Congress has played a critical role in ensuring regulations are not too burdensome while at the same time protecting the American public. It is therefore irresponsible for the legislative or the executive branch to haphazardly get rid of regulations without thoroughly looking at the impact and the long-term consequences. Although on its face, Executive Order 1371, which says that for every new regulation issued, at least 2 prior regulations should be identified for elimination, may seem like a good idea. It has very real impact on the lives of small business owners. We must collaborate to thoroughly produce streamlined regulations for small firms while keeping in mind our ultimate goal to protect consumers and public safety. If the Trump administration truly wants to support minority businesses, they would not have eliminated the Minority Business Development Agency in the President's fiscal 2017 budget proposal. Even after objections from the business community, the Trump administration proposed budget only resulted in $6 million for the MBDA. This number is significantly less than the $34 million appropriated in FY 2017. How can they say we are serving the needs of minority businesses when the administration continues to attack the sole agency focused on the needs of minority-owned businesses? Try to get rid of the agency that is just irresponsible. And I'd like to add we sent a letter to the appropriators in the House and the Senate, along with my Pennsylvania colleague, Senator Casey, stressing the importance of the MBADA in Philadelphia, which is run by a woman by the name of Della Clark. Minority business owners offer an invaluable contribution to our economy, and they need help. Today's hearing offers the opportunity to discuss how Congress can better help our nation's minority entrepreneur prosper. I look forward to hearing from our witnesses and how we can ensure America's minority entrepreneurs have the resources they need to grow and prosper. I want to thank the chairman especially and yield back the balance of my time.
Great, thank you very much, Mr. Evans. If committee members have an opening statement prepared, I ask they be submitted for the record. I'd like to take a moment to explain the timing lights for you. I doubt they'll come into play. You will each have 5 minutes to deliver your testimony. The light will start out as green. When you have 1 minute remaining, the light will turn to yellow. Finally, at the end of your 5 minutes, it will turn red. I ask that you try to adhere somewhat within the parameters of that, but if you go over a little, don't worry about it. And with that, I'd like to start introducing our first witness with us today, Mr. Larry Lopez, president of Green Job Works in Baltimore, Maryland. This morning, Mr. Lopez is testifying on behalf of the Associated Builders and Contractors, where he chairs their diversity committee. Thank you very much for being with us today, Mr. Lopez, and you may begin your testimony. Thank you for being here.
Good morning, everyone. Chairman Bratt, Ranking Member Evans, and members, well, we only have the two of you today, but committee, subcommittee, and of members of the committee, subcommittee on economic growth, tax, and capital access. Thank you for allowing me to be with you today to discuss this positive impact that the Congress and administration's policies have had on my small business and businesses of all kinds. As you stated, my name is Larry Lopez, and I am the president of Green Job Works. Today, I'm testifying on behalf of ABC, Associated Builders and Contractors. They're a national construction industry trade association. We're established in 1950, and they represent more than 21,000 members throughout the country. We're founded on a merit shop philosophy, and ABC and its 70 chapters help members develop people, win work, and deliver that work safely, ethically, and profitably for the betterment of the communities which the members live and work in. So my company, Green Job Works, is a construction staffing company. We were founded in 2011 in Baltimore, and we provide labor to the industry. We really believe that we take the burden away from hiring people, which can be very challenging. We find the right people for the right job for our clients to help them deliver work the right way. We also have expanded and grown and developed several other divisions in our company in construction. So we do demolition, remove asbestos, and we do post-construction cleaning. So we kind of dip on both sides here. My company today I wanted to tell you how it's benefited from tax cuts and the regulatory changes that have happened. H.R. 1 and tax cuts and the Jobs Act specifically really helped my business. With the increase in the construction industry, all its growth, companies having higher profit margins, being more comfortable just really doing business and growing, it's really built up, I feel, a lot of confidence in the industry. And that specifically has helped my company grow and be able to reinvest that growth with benefits to my employees. So I've been able to implement annual raises from a staffing perspective, which is pretty unheard of. Pay increases for folks after working for me 30 days. We promote people internally, positions like crew leaders on projects. We've actually implemented more technology on our projects. We use iPads on job sites now. We use iPads to do applications and onboarding. So all the changes have really helped my company tremendously. As far as the divisions that I mentioned earlier, the growth in my demolition, asbestos, and post-construction cleaning has been really kind of off the charts. At one point, it was probably about 10% of my revenue, and it's at around 30, 35, and it continues to grow. All this happens, in my opinion, due to the changes that have taken effect in the last year or so. Because of all this growth, obviously, I've had to hire more staff. We are continuing to even look to hire more. So given the challenges in workforce, we believe that training is critical, on-the-job training even more so. So we're looking to create a full-time training position from a staffing model to allow our clients to have our employees trained on the job. The last point that I think is important as far as workforce is diversity. I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about, you mentioned that I was the chair of the ABC Diversity Committee. I take that role very seriously. It's really important, I think, to make it clear that as a country, we're not going to make it if we don't understand the importance of the fact that we have to diversify our workforce. We have to diversify, we could go all day on it. But as far as the industry itself, I think it's critical that we understand we have to look at different places to find folks right now because of the workforce shortage. While it's great that unemployment is low, it is very difficult, I feel, to be able to fill all these positions if we don't start training people. And I know we talk about it a lot, but there's not enough. So what I will ask Congress is that continuing to pass legislations like H.R. 2353, which is the Strengthening Career and Technical Education for the 21st Century Act, that allows dollars to go to private organizations to do training, because that's really important if we're going to continue to backfill the workforce that's aging out right now. There are a lot more things I really wanted to say, but I'll close by saying this. The contributions that Congress and the administration have made in the past year on tax reform and regulatory relief have unlocked the potential for my small business to create growth and opportunities for everyone. So I want to thank Chairman Bratt, Member Evans, again for inviting me today to participate in this hearing. I look forward to answering any of your questions about how my small business has benefited from economic growth and in my community and become more successful in this really competitive market. Thank you.
Thank you. It's not every day we have a good news committee panel, so it's great to hear the good news that's happening out there. Our next witness is a business leader in my own community and a good friend over the years, Mansoor Simipour, and he is president of the construction and development company A&K Development Corporation in my district in Virginia. Mr. Simipour also established the Economic Development Partners Group of Orange County, which actively works with new and existing businesses in the county to maximize investment and job creation. He's a good friend of the community. He knows how to make friends across the aisle, across every demographic and friendship group you could have. He's an ideal person to have a testimony today, and thank you for being here with us, and you may now testify.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Evans. I'm honored to be here today. I'm talking on behalf of myself. I'm not that much with anybody. I'm here and proud to be a part of Virginia Small Business, the state that is one of the top states to do business in and a best place for me to live in. My story starts from about 50 years ago, 50 plus years ago, when I was just 9 years old. And I started my corporate-like business, hiring kids of twice as much as my age, teenagers, to sell my fireworks in neighborhood and get their commission. And they were acting actually, because their livelihood depends on those money, they were acting like my bodyguard to make sure that I'm safe to give them the product to sell and those. And I'm proud of that time. And since then, I'm proud also to say that all of these years, I never received a paycheck from anybody. I'm the one who actually provide paycheck to other people. I consider myself a live statue of American dreams. And born to be an entrepreneur, I'm proud to say in my entire life, I really done that. I served as a board of director of a community bank for 7 years from late 1990s to early 2000. And that experience was one of the best experiences I had because it helped me to see the problem was going through the financial situation and a slowdown in 2005. And that helped me to save my business and my life during the financial crisis. I'm also a board member of Board of Trustee of a private school of PK to 12 in Virginia. And with a few local friends, we made an economic partnership with Orange County that has been outstanding with the result we have. The economic development brings every month the leaders of the community at the same table. That's something that is lack of that in most of the communities. We have Board of Supervisors, Planning Commission, elected officials, the Chamber of Commerce, local community college, business leaders, a school board, and name all of the people who can make a decision. They come in and they make a decision, actually inform decision, and that helped the county to make an amazing result out of it. About a year ago, of course, in small businesses, about a year ago, I asked you, Mr. Chairman, give me something that I'd be happy for, to get out and give it to my kids, that they'd be happy. And this is what you said. The free market platform we have for small businesses and its owners in our system is what will help us to move forward at any time. And that was the best ever I got from my representative, and still I remember it because that was a small business owner takes risk unlike other businesses. They take 100+ % of risk on all they have to make the business work. The risk is not an abstract concept for a small business. A small business is there to make it work. And always when you get a loan, they want your personal guarantee. Even they don't give you enough money, but they do that. My time is getting a little bit short. I have to, okay. Many external factors impact the level of risk the small business owner must take. Regulation, especially adding new requirements that could not have been anticipated, greatly impact a small business. Regulation affect the ability to borrow to start or expand a business. Regulation divert time and resources away from the main business. Regulation can slow implementation of a new project or the movement of the new product to the market. I encourage all legislators to truly evaluate the risk that examine for new regulation imposed to the business climate, especially regulation that cross a line and add risk to a level that discourage business startup or expansion. A small business are a critical part of our economy. In Orange County, Virginia, as I have my business, we have about 900 employees. Over 90% of them employ less than 20 people. But that represents nearly 30% of the entire workforce. At the local level, the financial ability of a community and sensitivity to impact of rules and regulation are helping create an environment that encourage investment by a small business owner. In the last 24 months, we have 84 new startup companies in Orange County. Availability of capital to a small business. To start this part of my testimony, I should say, I believe most of the banks are almost closed when it comes to providing much needed capital to small businesses. Because of that happened in our economy after 2007, banks are so afraid of making loans to small businesses after they made millions of bad loans between 2000 and 2006, which that was one of the reasons we had a financial crisis. The present banking behavior remind me of two things that I heard from my parents. A person was standing on the flat roof of a high-rise, and someone told him, be careful, don't fall. He walked back and fall from the other side. And the banking underwriters are like the people, someone who was bitten by a rattlesnake And for entire life, they want to be afraid of black and white rope. And it does not really work. The banking, during the recession, most of the small business owners' credit got hit, and the banks that were giving loans to those businesses up to more than 80% loan to value, now I have seen many cases that they are not even approving 30 to 40%, even if the owner do the personal guarantee with all of their assets. This is unfortunate that most of the available capital to small businesses are in hands of secondary market with 12 to 18% APR with very difficult terms, which barely any small business owner can afford the consequence of that financing. My hope is to see the banks, which are one of the most essential tools of our economy growth, find a way to be able to help small business owners with the much needed capital for their new and expansion ideas. About the taxes, I'm not an expert. I just can tell you as a business owner, right now the tax laws and the change is helping a small business, and the biggest help we got started from President Bush, and President Obama extended that when they said companies who were making money and paying taxes between 2001 and after, and they were losing money after 2006, they could go back and consider that. I believe that rule and regulation saved tens of thousands of business by doing that one. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mansoor. It was great. Next witness will be Ms. Brenda Jones-Barwick, President and CEO of Jones PR in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. This morning, she will be testifying on behalf of women impacting public policy. Jones PR helps clients in several industries with public affairs, corporate communications, and consumer marketing needs. Thank you very much for being here all the way from Oklahoma, and you may begin your testimony. Thank you.
Chairman Bratt, Ranking Member Evans, and members of the subcommittee, thank you for the opportunity to testify today. My name is Brenda Jones-Barwick, and I am President and CEO of Jones Public Relations, located in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. And I am testifying today on behalf of the Women Impacting Public Policy, of which I am a board member. WIP is a national, nonpartisan policy organization that advocates on behalf of women business owners. And when I started my business in 2001, not many people would have really given me much of a chance because I came primarily from a political background that included a position in the White House West Wing and with the U.S. Ambassador to Switzerland, among several other positions at several international agencies. This year, I'm proud to say that my company, Jones Public Relations, is ranked the 109th largest PR agency in America. But I would like to set the stage by giving you a snapshot of Oklahoma's economy. 99.4% of all businesses are considered small, the majority of which are non-employers or businesses without employees. And women-owned firms have an average of 9 employees, which is lower than the male-owned counterpart companies. Small businesses created over 13,000 net jobs in 2015, with firms employing fewer than 20 employees experiencing the largest gains. As for the state and local economy, so far in 2018, Oklahoma City has hit a 10-year employment high. And this begs the observation that small business policy is not one-dimensional. Policies affect companies differently depending on their size and their business purpose and their business segment. Tax policy, for example, affects every business in America. And yet, until this year's tax reform bill, the Congress only recognized C Corps. And now, for the first time, the tax bill treats income from businesses organized as pass-through entities as business income. So my company is organized as an S Corp, and this change has allowed me to pay bonuses to my employees, hire more personnel, and increase salaries up to 10% for all employees. Another difference that requires new rules but has tremendous consequences for small companies is how retirement is treated. More than 1/3 of small business owners do not have a retirement plan, and many small companies find offering 401ks to be cumbersome and expensive. My company does offer a 401k plan to its employees and with an up to 4% match. However, rule changes are needed to specifically help small businesses remain competitive in the retirement plan benefits. President Trump's recent executive order and consequent legislation is beneficial not only for the owner, but also for the employees of small businesses, and we applaud this effort. Additionally, health insurance continues to be one of the biggest financial challenges for small businesses, as it is expensive and often without many choices. Since its inception, WIP has advocated for small business pools across state lines. And we were encouraged to see that the Department of Labor supports the notion of association health plans. But we do not think these plans will work as long as the pool is limited by state boundaries. One bright spot on this issue has been recent House action to change the definition of full-time employees from 30 hours to 40 hours a week with respect to the required health insurance coverage. And WIP has been pushing for this change since the ACA was enacted. WIP has also long advocated for an end to one-size-fits-all approach to banking regulation. We applaud the new law enacted this year, which gives small and mid-sized banks regulatory relief. Access to capital continues to be problematic for women-owned businesses who only receive 16% of all conventional small business loans. Regulations and compliance costs impact Jones PR in a couple of ways. We serve many clients in the energy and financial sectors, and as regulations are rolled back, it allows these companies to have more funds to invest in marketing. And second, Jones PR will be forced to hire an independent professional employment organization company in order to reduce our risk of being in compliance with federal regulations. While we have seen many positive changes initiated by this committee, there is still more work to be done. The federal government has continued to miss its 5% goal of contracting with women-owned businesses, and the consequences of this missed goal means fewer dollars flowing to women-owned businesses and to their local economies. In addition, the government actively discourages small business growth for federal contractors, limiting these companies from reaching their full potential. So we applaud the passage of H.R. 6330. That's the 5-year look-back legislation passed by this committee to help address this problem. In summary, the economy is healthy and unemployment is at a record low, and in today's regulatory landscape with recent legislative changes and a strong economy offers an environment for small businesses to thrive. And we especially want to thank this committee for paying attention and playing such an important role in the success of small businesses in this country. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that testimony. And now I'd like to yield to our ranking member, Mr. Evans, for the introduction of the final witness.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It is my pleasure to introduce Valerie J. Cofield, Chief Executive at the Eastern Minority Supply Development Council. I can tell you she's very active in my district and in the city of Philadelphia. Valerie's background includes expertise in the area of supply diversity, MBE, WBE, and WE business development. She has previously worked at Intech Construction in the City of Philadelphia Minority Business Enterprise Council. Ms. Cofield is a board member of the Philadelphia Habitat for Humanity, member of the Philadelphia Board of Labor Standards, and an active member of the Girl Scouts, serving Girl Scout leaders of multi-level troop. She holds a bachelor's degree from the Franklin Marshall College in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and we welcome you, Ms. Cofield.
Thank you, Congressman Evans. Good morning. Good morning, Chairman Bratt and Congressman Evans and members of the subcommittee. Thank you for the opportunity to provide testimony about the growth and development of minority businesses, particularly as it relates to 3 key areas: the economic impact and importance of development and growth of minority-owned businesses, the impact of H.R. 1, Public Law Number 115-97, the Tax Cut and Jobs Act, and the continued funding of the Minority Business Development Agency. As previously stated, my name is Valerie J. Cofield, and I am the President and CEO of the Eastern Minority Supplier Development Council, EMSDC, as I will refer to it going forward. EMSDC is headquartered in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, with a satellite office in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. EMSDC is one of 23 regional affiliates of the National Minority Supplier Development Council, operating in Pennsylvania, Southern New Jersey, and Delaware. As the president of the EMSDC, my mission is to ensure that all diverse businesses have access to and opportunity in the private sector and public supply chains. In March of 1979, recognizing the impact and importance of minority businesses, President Nixon signed Executive Order 11458, requiring government agencies and their contractors to contract with minority-owned companies and to report the results against pre-established goals to the Office of Minority Business Enterprise, which became the Minority Business Development Agency in 1971. In 1972, as a result of several federal grants focused on private sector engagement of minority businesses, the National Minority Supplier Development Council was formed. Formation of NMSDC in 1972 represented a private-public partnership to provide increased procurement and business opportunities for minority businesses of all sizes. By 1974, the newly formed NMSDC contracted with the U.S. Department of Commerce's Office of Minority Business Enterprise to encourage major corporations to increase their purchases of goods and services from minority businesses. Today, NMSDC, a privately funded organization, represents over 1,400 Fortune 100 and Fortune 500 businesses and over 12,000 certified businesses. EMSDC's foundation as an NMSDC affiliate directly aligns us with the most powerful minority supply organization in corporate America. EMSDC boasts corporate membership of over 120 Fortune 100 and Fortune 500 companies, either headquartered in or doing business in Pennsylvania, Southern New Jersey, and Delaware, all with organizational commitment to supplier diversity. Our corporate members' revenues are estimated to exceed $1.1 trillion annually. Corporations throughout America understand the value and importance of diversity and inclusion in business. On average, supplier diversity programs add $3.6 million to the bottom line for every $1 million in procurement operation costs. In 2017, EMSDC's MBEs, our 495 MBEs, had average annual revenues of $7.8 million and collective revenues of $3.9 million. That's in Pennsylvania, Southern New Jersey, and Delaware. In 2017, of our 495 certified businesses, we employed 17,612 individuals, or an average of 35.6 employees per business, far outpacing the rate of employment for the average small business of 20 employees. Minority-owned businesses are growing at a much faster rate than that of the U.S. businesses overall. At the time of the 2007 survey of businesses, minority-owned businesses accounted for 21.3% of the nation's businesses, employed 5.8 million persons, and generated $1 trillion in receipts. Given the rate of growth of diverse businesses, it is important to examine and understand the implications of H.R. 1, the Tax Cut and Jobs Act. The initial read of the benefits offers optimism, as we have heard from the other witnesses, in reduction of the effective tax rate for all businesses. The concern is the pass-through deduction that is not equally applied to all businesses. The structure of H.R. 1 creates concerns because most small businesses, specifically diverse businesses, are not C Corps and are pass-throughs, and therefore the effective tax rate of 21% will not apply to these businesses. Since small businesses are typically pass-throughs, the impact is too soon to fully measure. There are several immediate observations, however, that can be made and must be reviewed. This disparate application of the 20% pass-through bonus adversely impacts professional services business, which represent 40% of all small, diverse businesses, and therefore may provide little to no tax savings to these business owners, savings that will result in investment in new talent, technology, business development tools, and resources, will not be necessarily realized for these businesses and ultimately negatively impact long-term growth and viability. The various business tax deductions and credits that have been eliminated will have a direct impact on small businesses as well, as who use these deductions and credits to offset tax liability and provide additional benefits to employees. Further, the provisions of H.R. 1 are too short-term to have sustainable impact on small businesses, as the potential for savings and investment will be mitigated by limited access to capital and rising health care costs. Pass-through businesses will bear the burden of H.R. 1 and receive the least benefit or relief. These businesses are disproportionately minority-owned. The sustainable and measurable benefits to small businesses may ultimately be indirect in the result of increased demand from current and potential customers that may increase spending and seek their services due to their realized savings as larger C corporations. EMSDC and the NMSDC network, along with agencies like MBDA, will continue to monitor and report on the impact of H.R. 1 to minority-owned businesses. Speaking of MBDA, MBDA has been the premier federal agency dedicated to supporting the expansion of minority and Native-owned businesses for over 45 years. Unlike the Small Business Administration and other federal agencies that focus on broader demographic and emerging businesses, the MBDA's directive is focused on unique challenges and needs of minority-owned businesses. It is the only federal agency dedicated to growth and global competitiveness of our nation's minority business enterprises, which, according to the U.S. Census Bureau, contributed $1.4 trillion in total economic output and employed nearly 4 million Americans. MBA continues to be important because minority-owned businesses are growing significantly faster than non-minority-owned businesses. Their employment grew by 33%, their receipts by 57%, versus the shrinkage by non-minority firms of 5%. And yet, despite these gains, MBE's overall receipts versus non-minority firms, that is $196K versus $650K on average, do not reflect a balance between the rate of growth and market share. While there has been an increase in the number of minority-owned businesses from 21% to 29%, this growth has lagged behind the pace of growth of the nation's minority population. Currently, the administration's FY29 budget blueprint recommends the reduction of the agency through the elimination of the network of MBDA centers nationwide. The elimination of these 40 business centers would reduce needed hands-on assistance and facilitated access to capital and contract opportunities. It is important that MBDA remain fully funded and that the network of MBDA centers nationwide have adequate resources to support minority businesses doing work to assist these businesses in overcoming the barriers to growth and economic parity that they disproportionately encounter. You may ask why I am lobbying on behalf of MBDA. As you know, MBDA and NMSDC started at approximately the same time, and we have worked in partnership as organizations bringing services to the minority business community. And while I do not personally operate an MBDA center, I work in collaboration with the Philadelphia-based MBDA Center, as do my other council partners throughout the nation. In conclusion, the sustainability of small businesses, particularly small diverse businesses, is bolstered by private-public partnerships, programs, and initiatives. The NMSDC and its network of affiliate councils, including the EMSDC, is well equipped to support the continued development and growth of minority businesses. However, continued support is needed in the form of the MBDA from the federal government to ensure that small, diverse businesses are well positioned for continuous growth and long-term economic impact. Through business development and access, supplier diversity fuels the broadest economic growth opportunities for diverse businesses by creating equity and equality in the marketplace and allowing diverse businesses to succeed while overcoming extraordinary barriers. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your testimony. At this time, we'll open it up for questions, and I think we'll give ourselves about 5 minutes each. And so I'd just like to go down through the whole panel in a minute or so. If you had to rank the most important work we can do up here, everybody mentioned capital access is pretty important, and everybody mentioned skilled workforce, the human capital side. And so if you had to focus on one or two things, what would they be? And I taught economics at the college level for 20 years. And so I was shocked, right? The incoming freshman class had not received significant economic and business training, right? The kids didn't know what a price was or a cost, accounting, profits, what an entrepreneur is. Half the kids coming out of high school won't go to college. And so the good news is education's still at the local level, primarily, local and state. We do mandates up here and fund about 10% of it. So the good news is education's still in your hands at the local and state level. And so if you've got any comments on what we can all work on there to get the skills development going, but I'm just curious, access to capital or education, human capital in your comments. Mr. Lopez, we'll start with you.
I'm going to stick to the human capital side of things, and I will say that I really think that just training dollars somehow having on a national level, because this issue of the shortages of people out here it's around the country. Being part of ABC on a national level, I travel around the country and I get the same conversation. You're a staffing company. Do you have people? Do you have an office here? I mean, it's a serious issue. So if you could somehow put some legislation in place that allows those organizations easier access to capital to train people so that these companies can actually hire them with some skills rather than have to figure out a way to do it on the job, that would be really, really helpful, I think.
Great. Thank you. Mansoor?
Thank you. I believe we need to start to teach our kids at a young age to show them how to look outside of the box. Unfortunately, all of our student kids, they are being framed with certain kind of curriculum, go forward, and there is nothing really you can expect out of it. When they come to the college, they even don't know how to understand the credit card. Still, they're using parents' credit card. For someone like me that I bought my first house on my 18th birthday, because that was the day I could sign it, I believe we need to help our kids to understand it. But by doing, we need to, first, the school need to make a platform for them to understand. They need to change some real life curriculum to the system. They need to bring the expert in a regular basis to talk to them, show them how they can look out of what they just go after it. They need to learn money management. That's the most important part of any education we can give our kids. They need to have communication skill, especially face-to-face. They need to go after the interest, their wishes. They need to try those ones. And one very good program that I have seen it is in Culpeper County. Some citizen, they made a group called it E². They are making the kids to come in and present their ideas, like the Shark Tank, and show how valuable is that one. And this is about 5-6 years, I'm familiar with that. So far, several of the high school kids, actually they did go out and their ideas got to the point that the investors have invested on their ideas. Mm-hmm. And if we can really put a foundation for those kind of stuff at the schools, I believe we are going to be a winner.
Thank you very much. I think we'll circle back. I'm going to let our ranking member go for 5 minutes on his round of questions, and then we'll get to other members as they may show up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Valerie, I'd like to start with you and then go down the list from what I heard you say, and I thought you gave excellent testimony. Obviously, the chairman and the mission of this discussion is impact and review. We talked about tax policy, regulatory reform, obviously workforce, and you talked about MDBA. And I really want to get that message across from what I've heard you say in terms of its potential impact. Obviously, it was started under Richard Nixon, and here we are in the 21st century. So help me understand again the value that you think that entity is versus all the other things we talked about. I don't think it's an either or on tax policy, regulatory, or workforce, but I heard you really emphasize that in terms of minority business development.
So one of the reasons why those three issues bucket together very well is that MBDA is focused specifically on minority businesses. I want to go back to the point. It is the only federal agency that is focused on minority businesses. The Small Business Administration has programs that focus on veterans, on women, on the disabled, but they do not have a program that focuses on minority-owned businesses. So it's critically important to understand that. And while you have the 8A program, the 8A program is for socially and economically disadvantaged individuals, and it's not specifically, minorities are presumed to be, but it's not specifically only for minorities. MBDA is specifically designed to focus on the needs and challenges that minority-owned businesses have. And within that bucket, you're talking about access, you're talking about capital, you're talking about understanding the implications of tax reform for expansion and long-term sustainability. MBDA has 40 centers. That means that it's reaching every part of our nation in providing services to minority-owned businesses. The growth that you see in our minority business community does not happen in a vacuum. It happens with the supportive services that come out of agencies like MBDA, like the National Minority Supplier Development Council, because each of those organizations, and we do this in partnership. I will let you know that now 9 of my counterparts run MBDA centers in partnership with the National Minority Supplier Development Council affiliates.
And your point, I heard you say, your point is, as a result of the administration's recommendation from a budget investment standpoint, you obviously see an impact.
Absolutely. You're talking about 40 centers,
Right.
40 centers that are providing day-to-day business services to minority-owned businesses, whether they're helping them gain access to the federal procurement process, whether they are helping them with access to capital, whether they are helping them with business development and business planning. Those services now go away from a federal standpoint, and they go away as a resource in the various marketplaces.
Let me go to the next witness, because you raised the issue about the federal government not getting to that 5%. And you've heard just what Valerie said. You know, how do you juxtapose what I just heard, you know, in terms of working towards that objective of getting women?
I believe the 5% goal is still not a priority within the departments. And in fact, I met with a major federal agency 3 weeks ago, and I had mentioned about the sole source for women-owned businesses that was passed, I believe, in December 2015, and he was unaware, the contracting officer was unaware of that, and which stunned me. So when a lot of the contracting officers are not even aware of the sole source opportunity for women-owned businesses, that makes it, you know, that impedes reaching that 5% goal. And I believe it just has not been made a priority among the departments, and I would like to find a way to, you know, make it absolutely mandatory that the departments reach at least 5%. And that's a really small goal when you look at the complete landscape. WIP is not asking for a lot, a mere 5%, and there should not be any reason why they cannot meet that 5% goal.
Real quick, Val, what's your response to that, what you just heard? I mean, sounds like, you know, even though we talk about tax policy, regulatory policy, workforce, you know, in 2 particular cases for minorities and women, seems like it's going in the wrong direction.
Well, absolutely. I mean, I agree. A 5% is not an aggressive goal, particularly when you look at the population distribution of our country. 5% should be low-hanging fruit, as it should be for minority-owned businesses. The fact that we are still having to enforce goals in order to get access for minority and women-owned businesses in the federal government supply chain is alarming. And I think that at this point, the importance of the programs out of the SBA for women and the importance of the MBDA are critical to making sure that the federal government is doing their part. You see private industry stepping forward and taking more responsibility. We are your customers, ultimately, as your constituents. We're your customers, and it needs to be a priority that diverse businesses have a seat at this table and are sharing in the opportunities that are presented through the federal government.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You're back to balance.
Yeah, if anyone wants to follow up on Dwight's question, feel free. We have a few minutes left.
Mr. Chairman, may I follow up on your initial question
you bet.
regarding education?
Please.
Thank you. There are thousands of entrepreneurs, future entrepreneurs sitting in high school and college right now, but they don't even know they're entrepreneurs. And they are not receiving any type of financial education. They don't even know what liabilities, assets, income. I mean, they have no concept of that. And I would say, especially for young girls, I'm going to make a statement, but it seems like young boys, maybe because they have the influence of their fathers, seem to have an understanding of business, but young girls do not. And so when a young girl out of high school or college wants to start her own business, she's already handicapped because she does not have that knowledge. So I would love to see some kind of effort of getting small business, which will continue being the fuel our economy, into high schools and colleges. And then I would also add on another point, in Oklahoma, our top two industries are energy and aerospace. And you know, college is a great place to learn about energy and aerospace, but our career techs are booming. And young people can have amazing, very, a very livable life in the energy and aerospace industry by going through career techs. And I would like to see, and especially for women, as being a more viable option. They don't always have to go to college, but we're desperately needing more people come from the career tech area in aerospace and energy.
Mr. Chairman, may I respond as well?
Please.
It's interesting because my position is education is critically important, and as you know, I have my daughter here, so she's getting her education. But what I want to say more importantly, though, is as we educate our young people, we need to educate them around entrepreneurship. We're talking about creating new talent in terms of the employee base, but wealth is built through ownership. And entrepreneurship is that pathway to wealth. And when you talk about the lack of exposure of women, you also can speak to the diminished exposure that minorities have to entrepreneurship as being a viable opportunity for them to build wealth and to have that as a career path. And so that education of our young people is critically important, but also the education of adults. I mean, what do you do when you're unemployed? You know, entrepreneurship becomes a way of survival. And how do you then, you build a business, but how do you create a business that moves from being a lifestyle business to a legacy business? And that's what we need to be focusing on from my standpoint when you look at entrepreneurs, is not only building lifestyle businesses that are not necessarily employers, but building legacy businesses that are building wealth in communities and employing people.
Well said. Thank you very much to the entire panel. Dwight, do you have any other? Good. I just want to thank you all for being with us. I think we're starting to zoom in on the end. There seems to be a consensus across the board on the capital and the education side. This year, last year, I'm on the education committee in the K-12. Just so you know, the feds have been mandating, high-stakes testing for years now, and there's a consensus. Kids surely don't like it. I've got a few myself. And the teachers don't like it, and the principals don't like it, and the incentives are. And so we lighten that up somewhat. Now it's the mandate's been lightened from all the subjects to just math and English. So that frees up the states and localities. They may not know that, right? So there's a little bit more play. And so when you go back to your local school boards, they have the latitude. Getting changes through bureaucracies is hard, but there's a little play there. So, and then the higher ed, we did some good work on career and technical this year, and so there's some good news there as well. But most importantly, just follow up with us. Zoom in. We're all on the same page on these kind of things. And so get exactly what you want, right? And write up, help our staffs, work with our staffs to write up very specifically in terms of goals and what we can do. And we'll all work together because I think we have shared goals in the room today. And so I just want to close by thanking all of the witnesses. Excellent job to everybody. I ask unanimous consent that members have 5 legislative days to submit statements and supporting materials for the record. And without objection, so ordered, this hearing is now adjourned, and thank you all again. Have great days.